Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund's first informational webinar. My name is Shahela. I am the program director of the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund, or LISCIF, and I am with Restore America's Estuaries. We'll get started shortly. I'll have my camera off just so we can focus in on the slides, and I'll take questions, comments at the end. You can put your questions in the chat, and Rob, who is our comms person, can give me those questions, and I'll do my best to answer. The recording can also be found on our website, and we will also have another informational webinar next Tuesday, October 17th at 2 p.m. in case you have any colleagues who couldn't attend. So we'll get started right now. I'm going to stop my video. Okay. All right. So the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund is a partnership with Restore America's Estuaries, the EPA, and the Long Island Sound Study. And the main purpose is to provide technical and financial assistance to environmental justice communities to address environmental issues and improve the quality and accessibility of the Long Island Sound. Funding for LISCIF is provided by EPA through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and this will help to meet the Justice 40 initiative goal, which states that 40% of all overall benefits, federal investments, should flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution. The EPA defines environmental justice as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. The goal will be achieved when everyone, one, enjoys the same degree or protection from environmental and health hazards, and number two, enjoys equal access to the decision-making process to have a healthy environment to which to live, learn, and work. So a little bit about the Long Island Sound Study. The Long Island Sound Study was formed in 1985. It's a bi-state partnership of federal and state agencies, user groups, concerned groups, individuals dedicated to protecting and restoring the Long Island Sound. The Long Island Sound itself is home to more than 1,200 invertebrates, 170 fish species, and dozens of migratory birds. And there's about 9 million people on the watershed. Restore America's Estuaries is a national alliance of 10 coastal conservation groups dedicated to restoring and preserving America's estuaries and coasts. And we are involved in 11 estuaries across 16 states. And you can see some of our member organizations at the bottom. All these slides will also be available on our website afterwards. So the agenda for today that I wanted to review is the overview of the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund, eligibility, program requirements, budget, application process and deadlines, and resources. So for LISCIF, the program goal is that Ray will award $1.5 million in federal funds for the first round of funding in 2024. And typical awards can range from about $5,000 to up to $100,000. We will also do an annual learning exchange every year among regional institutions and also organizations involved in different projects. And this will also include stipends to be able to attend. We will also invest in training programs to prepare local organizations to not only apply for LISCIF, but to be able to get these larger federal grants. And also with the goal in mind to strengthen and diversify connections within the Long Island Sound region. For the geographic eligibility, this is also in the RFA and also on the LISCIF website. You'll be able to access the link where you can zoom in and zoom out. The Long Island Sound study geographic region refers to the Long Island Sound watershed within New York and Connecticut for the purpose of this program. So if you are unsure, you can always zoom in to see if you fit within those lines. For applicant eligibility, eligible applicants include nonprofit organizations, tribes, states, state or county, local governments, their subdivisions, or academic institutions. Projects funded under LISCIF must address the priorities identified under funding priorities in the RFA, which we'll also go over in a few slides. Proposals should also target communities experiencing or affected by adverse and disproportionate environmental and human health risks or harms, including affected, underserved communities within the Long Island Sound geographic boundaries. All subaward projects should be community-driven or community-led. Federal agencies are not eligible recipients of funding, but may be included as partners in proposals submitted by eligible recipients. Organizations may submit multiple LOIs or applications, either as a lead organization, a partner organization, or on another organization's application. Multiple applications must be submitted separately, and each will be evaluated independent of other proposals. A little bit about the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. This is where a lot of the program priorities come out of, along with metrics. The CCMP is mostly composed of 4 main themes, which is clean waters and healthy watersheds, thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, sustainable and resilient communities, sound science, and inclusive management. Within these 4 main themes, there are outcomes, objectives, strategies, and implementation actions, along with 3 cross-cutting principles for long-term sustainability, climate resiliency, and environmental justice. Just to get a little bit deeper into the different goals of the CCMP, the clean waters and healthy watershed. The goal of this theme is to improve water quality by reducing contaminant and nutrient loads from the land and waters impacting the Long Island Sound. For thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, this theme is to restore and protect the Sound's ecological balance in a healthy, productive, and resilient state. For sustainable and resilient communities, the goal of this theme is to support vibrant, informed, and engaged communities that use, appreciate, and help protect the Long Island Sound. And then finally, we have the sound science and inclusive management theme, which focuses on management of the Long Island Sound using sound science, cross-jurisdictional governance that is inclusive, adaptive, innovative, and accountable. So as you can see, for this slide, we'll get into the program priorities for LISCIF. And all of the program priorities are in alignment with the CCMP. We have the 4 main funding themes on the left side. Your project has to hit at least one of these program priorities. Number 1 being projects that result in quantifiable pollutant prevention or reduction, restoring habitat within the important coastal habitat types targeted by Long Island Sound Study, projects that foster diverse, balanced, and abundant populations of fish, birds, and wildlife, public engagement, knowledge, and stewardship, projects that enhance community resilience and sustainability, planning and design that set the stage for implementation of water quality projects, eligible habitat restoration projects, and resilience projects, community-based science projects, data management and integration projects, and other similar activities that the applicant proposes. So as you can see, the program priorities are pretty broad as long as you are able to tie it back to the CCMP. This is just an example of a project impact model. You do not have to submit one of these for the LOIs, but if you do get an invitation to do a full proposal, we would ask you to submit this just to see the connection to the CCMP and the impact throughout. So for example, if you are doing a project about protecting piping plovers, the funding priority that this would fall under could be public engagement, knowledge, and stewardship if you're doing an educational program around this. The theme for this would be sustainable and resilient communities. And the impact would be to increase public knowledge on piping plovers, their nesting ground, habitat, and various shorebirds. The implementation action for this would be to support and encourage informal education activities on the Long Island Sound. So this is just one example. We have several others under our LISCIF resources page. We have one example for every theme, along with case studies that you can explore. Achievement of LISCIF project metrics. Upon completion of LISCIF funded project, applicants will summarize results using the LISCIF metric framework. Projects will use metrics established by the CCMP under its implementation actions. As needed, Ray will assist grant recipients in assessing the results of the work for final reporting. And all the implementation actions, the CCMP, all of these resources can be found under the LISCIF resources page. Just to take a deeper dive under the different resources that we have for you to make this application process a little bit easier, we have the CCMP linked. And then we also have the implementation actions linked, along with supplemental documents on the implementation actions. So if you wanted to see how that applies to different projects based on each theme, those documents are also there, and they will all take you to the Long Island Sound Study webpage. We also have, as I mentioned before, project case studies from the Futures Fund, examples of impact models and implementation actions, how you can actually apply those to your idea. And then also, if you were curious to find out how we were scoring the LOIs, the evaluation and rubric sheet is there, along with the scoring and evaluation rubric for the full proposal. We also have a LISCIF Excel budget template that you can download that will be a part of your LOI submission. And all of these can be found on the LISCIF webpage. If you go to the webpage, you'll see on the left-hand side, it'll say applicant and grantee resources, and there will be links to all the resources over here. There's also one more resource for the Technical Assistance Center that we act as managing. They are very supportive in helping throughout the grant writing process, reviewing things if you needed, or anything else capacity-wise. They're happy to help with that as well. If you go to their website, all you have to do is kind of put in your contact information and explain what is it that you're looking for help with. For use of funds, you can use your funds for LISCIF funds for your project costs, salary, contractual support, if you need to get a contractor on site, tools and equipment, supplies, conferences, and travel. So if you are going to present on your project at the annual learning exchange or the RAISE Summit, this is an opportunity for you to write in those costs for 1 or 2 staff members. Any indirect costs and all grant payments will be made on a reimbursement basis. So you will be able to request a reimbursement at least quarterly and at most monthly. The ineligible uses of funding is research and monitoring. LISCIF will not fund proposals in which the primary purpose is research or monitoring. However, research and monitoring may be funded as part of a larger grant, where the purpose of the research or monitoring is to assess results and outcomes of the grant-funded activity. So, for example, you couldn't do a researching project, but if you wanted to assess the results to communicate it to community in an accessible way, you would be able to use LISCIF for that. Another form of funding that you are not able to use is for actions legally required. So LISCIF will not fund actions required to settle a formal enforcement action, including a court order, nor will it fund actions required as mitigation measures under a state, local, or federal permit for a specific project. Routine maintenance, LISCIF will not fund work involving only routine activities to maintain stormwater infrastructure, other facilities, land, or water bodies. Plans or studies that lack a clear environmental impact or path to implementation. Plans and studies will be considered for funding only if they are directly relevant to and provide results that inform the achievement of CCMP goals, and where applicants can describe a realistic pathway to implementation. Anything that has to do with conventional gray infrastructure projects, LISCIF will not fund conventional infrastructure projects using well-established technologies or methods, such as installation of sewer lines. Private construction, LISCIF will not fund new construction or retrofitting of buildings or facilities serving primarily private purposes, including residential, commercial, and institutional properties. And also land purchases. Purchase of land or real estate will not be funded.
Shahela, hey,
Yes.
it's Rob. We had a question in the Q&A about whether or not this grant would support advocacy work such as grassroots organizing around environmental justice. And I figured this was a good time to answer that.
Yeah, it can't, LISCIF can't fund advocacy work as far as getting into policies or politics, but it can fund work if there's an educational component tied to the CCMP. And we can talk more about this. If you'd like to schedule a 30-minute call with me, I'd be more than happy to talk about more of the details of your idea. And thanks for stopping me, Rob. Feel free to stop me at any moment. For budget, there are no match requirements, which is really exciting. This is one of the ways that we were able to remove a barrier. And so you'll be able to download this Excel budget template on the LISCIF webpage. And we also have a budget training with Sarah Smith, our grants administrator, next Monday, October 16th at 11 a.m. And then we also have a Q&A session November 13th at 11 a.m. as we get closer to the submission date. And she'll be reviewing how to do a budget, write out your plans, kind of the cost breakdown, going through that appropriately. So you feel confident about submitting your idea. The application process itself is a two-step process. So you would submit the letter of intent, which is due on December 1st by 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the reviewers will review all the letter of interest. And by the week of January 15th, we will let you know if you get selected, and you'll be invited to submit a full proposal. If you don't get selected, we'll be happy to jump on a call with you, answer any questions, and to better prepare you for the second round of funding. The submission for full proposals is due on March 15th, 2024 by 4 p.m. And we'll also have another webinar to help support in grant writing for the full proposal. just to review the timeline for LISCIF, we released the RFA on September 27th. December 1st is when the letters of intent are due. As I said, the week of January 15th, you'll be notified if you move on to submit a full proposal or not. That's due by March 15th. And then by April 2024, we will notify applicants of awards, those who are selected. And then we'll also have some events to celebrate that. And then on July 1st would be your project start date. Although there is some flexibility to this, there have been some organizations who have reached out, who have asked if they can start at a later time. And that's completely fine as long as your work is completed by July 31st, 2025. And then the final reporting would be due September 30th, 2025. Is there another question? LISCIF funds retrofitting a facility used for environmental public outreach education. Can you explain more about your question? If it's tied to the CCMP, yes, but if it's a more of an infrastructure piece, we wouldn't. So it would have to have like an environmental impact for it. But we can also talk more about that offline too. If you want to provide more details, Kamazima. To explain more about research, how to show what the project is, assessing research outcome for the grant-funded project. Yeah, so if you are already involved in another grant that allows you to do research and you're wrapping up that research and doing the results for that, and you want to disseminate those results to different types of communities in an accessible way, whether it be an app or another form, that's a good opportunity for you to use LISCIF funding. But for research itself, it's not allowed. So if you already have results, if you already have, for example, water quality results for a certain bay or for a certain region on the Long Island Sound, you can take those results and do outreach or do another project with it. That would fall under LISCIF, if that makes sense. But if you are proposing just to research on its own, then it would not be eligible. So it depends on your LOI if you can connect that with the other grants that you're involved in or other projects that you're involved in. You would have to be able to explain that. All right. I'm just trying to see if we have any. Okay, I'm gonna keep going and then I'll take questions in the end. So for the letter of intent, the application process looks like this. There are 7 sections. Section 1 would be applicant information, name or role of organization, the project leader and their contact info. For section 2, organizational fiscal information, so your employer identification number, and also your federal system award management or UE ID number. You don't have to have the SAM or UE ID number now as you're submitting for the letter of intent, but we highly recommend that you start the process and making sure that you have that because when your project starts, that's the way that we'll be able to pay you and kind of proceed that way. And the process is pretty lengthy. So we just recommend organizations have that as soon as possible, although you don't need it to apply for LISCIF right now. Section 3 is project overview. So just the description or the phase of your project, also with an attached map and a list of partners, if any. And the map can be as simple as going on Google Maps and just zooming in to where your project will be and taking a screenshot and uploading that. Section 4 would be the cost information, the amount that you're requesting, whether it's 75,000, 50,000, 100,000. The project description would be in section 5, and this is all in the RFA. This is where you would describe your problem, your impact, the alignment with the CCMP, stakeholders, your work plan, and the project team. Section 6 would be where you upload your map and your proposal budget, the budget template that we just saw earlier on. And there's also an example budget template in the RFA as well. And then finally, section 7 is certification. So a signature of a responsible individual from your organization who is allowing you to apply for this. Everyone's on the same page. And when you're ready to submit your letter of intent, you'll go to our website, estuaries.org/LISCIF. You'll notice that there are 2 buttons. And you're going to hit submit your letter of intent, and that will take you directly to the application site. When you get to the application site, you'll be prompted to create a login. And this is the first page that you will see. It's really important that you take a look at this just to make sure that you have the email address mail@grantapplication.com saved to your safe senders list. So it's not going into your spam or junk folder. And that's how your application process will be communicated. And another helpful tidbit is to click on the printer-friendly version, and that will allow you to see all the questions beforehand. So we highly encourage you to do your answers on a separate document, like a Word document or Google Drive document, and then transfer your answers to the printer-friendly version. To the application directly. And then throughout the process, just as a reminder that if you're coming back to the application, you want to save frequently. And if you're returning to the application to finish it, you're just going to hit this link over here. And this will take you back to where you left off, so you're not creating new applications. So yeah, just when you create your login, take a look at this. Please read carefully, and it'll make things a lot easier for you. As I said before, LISCIF will not only support financially, but also support with webinars, technical support webinars. So we have several webinars designed for the cycle of the first round of funding. We had the first webinar about project design and building partnerships, which you can see the recording on our website along with the slides. We have a grant writing webinar on how to write a strong narrative this Thursday from 2 to 3. And then, as I mentioned before, we have a budgeting and staffing webinar, how to ensure the project is financially viable. This is next Monday from 11 to 12. And then as you get closer to submitting your LOI, we have a question and answer budgeting session on November 13th. And that'll give you the opportunity to ask any questions or any confusion you might have. In addition, if you want to do 30-minute one-on-one calls with me, my booking calendar is listed on the website in the RFA and on this slide. And you'll be able to do 30-minute session calls with me, and I can answer any questions you might have. And so we have about 16 webinars scheduled through the cycle of the grant. As I said, the first one was on September 19th. In February 2024, we'll have a grant writing assistance webinar for the full proposal. In June 2024, a grants agreement and invoicing webinar, a project implementation one in August, coalition building and networking with partners, a comms webinar, bookkeeping, collecting data and database development, advocacy and educational outreach, results and reporting, fundraising, GIS mapping, presenting results and findings, and finally writing your results, which is July 2025, to get you prepared for that final reporting in September 2025. Again, these are just examples. These may change depending on the needs of organizations or if there are any gaps that we need to fill. And also, you do not need to apply to LISCIF to attend these trainings. Most of these trainings are open to the public and everyone, except for the project implementation one, which we would be giving a stipend per organization for the sub-awardees to attend. Okay, I wanted to open up any questions that you guys have had, and just wanted to remind you that we have another informational webinar, which will be the same information in case your colleagues missed this one, and that's next Tuesday, October 17th from 2 to 3 p.m. And I'll just pass it to Rob to see if there's any other questions that I might have missed.
Sure. It looks like there's one, and maybe you did get to this already, but would a community-wide tree planting program be supported under this grant program?
It could, depending on the program priorities. So if you are able to tie it, your proposal to the program priorities and tie it to the CCMP, if there's a connection to the Long Island Sound and restoring the waterways, if you're able to kind of narrate and explain that tie, it definitely can tie into that. And like I said, the program priorities are very broad. The themes are very broad, so you can connect different proposals in different ways. But yeah, that can definitely be a possibility. Will email notifications be sent out before each of the technical support training webinars? Great question. Yes, please sign up for our newsletter on the LISCIF webpage. There's a sign up button. And that way, you'll be connected to all the webinars before we release them, and any other updates LISCIF related.
And I just added that link to sign up for the newsletter there in the
great. Thank
chat,
you.
so you
Thanks,
should be
Rob.
able to access it. Now, I'll say too that anyone on this webinar today will get added as well, so that you can keep in the loop with us too.
Yeah, and please take advantage of booking 30-minute calls with me. I'm more than happy to talk more about your proposal or any other questions that you have if I didn't answer it on this call. Just seeing if there's any other questions. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining this informational webinar. One of them will be uploaded to our website, and I hope you'll join us for our grant writing webinar this Thursday at 2 p.m. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.